So after I did end up going through and playing Apocalypse a bit, I did end up going back in and playing the first Motorstorm, but with that, I wanted to go back and play Pacific Rift again. The reason for that is I did want to dive into this game and figure out and go over some of the special things about it on what really made this a Motorstorm game. Now, a few things I do want to talk about here though, guys. We all do know for a fact that this game is going to be the second one that did end up coming out after the first game. Funny part is, when I was playing through Apocalypse, I was like, yeah, I could kind of tell this game is going to be newer. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? Let me go through this game and then go through something like Rift again and play through it and see how that game was different. And obviously, the game is going to be older. I believe it was from 2008 or so. So yeah, it's going to be back in that time of like Grand Theft Auto 4, also like Midnight Club Los Angeles. So yeah, this game probably isn't going to look as good as something like Apocalypse, but I gotta admit, this game looked a lot better than I thought it would. I really would say Pacific Rift is probably going to be a really good looking game, and you know what? It really does capture the overall Motorstorm DNA a good amount. I was going through now, if you guys are going to be doing this a bit backwards like me, and you go and play something like Apocalypse, and then go back in and play something like Pacific Rift, then yeah, you're going to have a different experience there, man, because Apocalypse is going to be drastically different than something like Pacific Rift. It's not necessarily going to be a bad thing, but this game for me, though, really was going to be like a newer version of the original Motorstorm, which is probably something they were going after. I did like the way the maps were designed and pretty much the routes being like, okay, well, you can go up higher here in a motorcycle, or like a car is going to be better than being in the mud and something like that in like a truck or something. So you are going to have to figure out your routes and go, okay, well, I have to go that way, that's quicker. Sometimes you're going to miss your turn or something and maybe take the mud in like a dirt bike, and you're then going to notice that you are going to be much slower doing it that way. So it is going to have that same aspect as the original Motorstorm, but I do feel like they really did a great job with the vehicle handling. Riding something like an ATV, like you guys see me in the background here doing one of these speed challenges. And I gotta be real, I kind of was a bigger fan of the motorcycles over the ATVs, at least in this Motorstorm. I did find them pretty fun in the first one. Also, I would say in Apocalypse they were pretty entertaining, but overall in Pacific Rift I did kind of like the bikes a bit more. And then also, similar to the other Motorstorms, I did end up using like a mud-specific vehicle, which was also going to be very fast in a lot of areas to where the bikes or ATVs and stuff like that weren't going to be. And you can kind of go different routes with it and explore more because you're probably not going to get stuck or lose speed and stuff like that. So I do really like the way they did end up mixing the class around in Motorstorm, which honestly, I kind of feel like the class design in Motorstorm in general is probably going to make the entire series special, because I don't know of any other game that really took this type of approach. Now, I am going to talk about this a bit more in the video, where I do wish they do another Motorstorm game, but I kind of do end up doubting they are going to be, which I will explain why that is in that video. The thing is, though, if you are going to be looking for a fun, chaotic game, man, I honestly feel like you can't go wrong with any of these. Now, the one Motorstorm game I haven't played recently, or I guess you could say haven't played in a very long time, is going to be Arctic Edge. I am going to try to find a copy of that game and see if I can manage to even get a copy of it. I was kind of surprised I found Pacific Rift pretty quick and also Apocalypse. And I was like, huh, maybe I could get Arctic Edge, but it turns out that game was on PS2, and I was kind of confused on that. But a lot of the things I also do like about Pacific Rift, though, is I do like the way the level designs are. Now, I gotta admit, though, if you are going into this game thinking there's going to be like 100 different tracks or something, that is going to be untrue, because there is going to be a good amount of them. Like, you guys are going to see me in the background doing like a crazy race. Is going to be by like a volcano. There's going to be lava everywhere. There's different routes and stuff like that you can take. But this is going to be a set race in the main part that's going to be part of like the quote-unquote fire thing, which there's also going to be a few other tracks in this area. But if you are going through the campaign, you're probably going to experience the same tracks, or, you know, go through them a few different times driving like a mud type of vehicle, or like a rally car, then like a truck. Then you're also going to use a trophy truck, and then like an ATV and a dirt bike and so on. So you're probably most likely going to be fairly familiar with these tracks, but I kind of thought that maybe some of it players might end up going, yo, I kind of wish there was more racetracks in the game or different routes and stuff. I feel like I was playing on this one a lot. Do let me know what y'all think about that in the comments below. Personally, for me, it wasn't really bothering me that much because I was enjoying the chaoticness of the racing, and each vehicle really is going to feel so much different. For example, you are going to see me running something like a rally car in the background. You're going to see ATVs and other rally cars and stuff like that as well, because some of the classes are based on like what you are doing. So you might have something like trucks and all that, like an open class type of race in there, or you might have just rally cars, ATVs, and dirt bikes and stuff like that, and no trucks. And I feel like that is going to mix up the gameplay even more because the rally cars are going to be really quick. They jump really far and stuff like that as well, so you can easily wreck into something, and if you hit something with it, you are most likely going to crash it basically every single time. But with that, you're also going to be a lot faster. The boost is going to make you pretty much fly past everybody most of the time, and that is going to make it even more entertaining. Now, some of the parts I was noticing about Rift, at least compared to the regular Motorstorm, is, again, I do feel like a lot of it is going to be upgraded in a way. Like, you could tell they kind of built upon it. There's going to be different vehicle skins and different upgrades and stuff like that. And what I mean by upgrades is literally different vehicle skins of the said vehicle that you are using. So in a way, it is going to be slightly upgraded. You can't change anything on the car that you're using besides the liveries and all that, but they're also all going to be the same speed. So if you are using like a rally car and you really like it a lot and you do end up unlocking a different one, from what I have noticed, a lot of the cars are going to be fairly similar to each other, so there's not going to be anything insane there. It is basically just going to be vehicle skins or different vehicles, but all of them have the exact same stats, which I would say is probably a good way to balance the game out, at least, because if you are going to have like a motorcycle that's going to be crazy quick, or something like a big truck that's going to handle better than everything else and be really fast, then you can wreck all the other drivers and you might not want to pick anything else. Or maybe one truck is going to be way better than the others and the entire meta thing happens. So I do understand where they were coming from with the design of this. I also really did enjoy the monster truck as well. Firstly, I was kind of using it going, I mean, it's okay. But the more I did end up racing this thing, I'm like, no, this thing is going to be sweet. It's not only going to be very fast, but it also handles very well and pretty much can go over any type of terrain you do end up coming up to with it. So I do feel like that is most likely going to mix it up more, man. You're going to have monster trucks in there. Vehicles you are most likely not going to notice in any other game, which I really do feel like is going to set this game apart. You're also going to have like a Doom Buggy, which for me I would say is probably going to be a really fun class because they're, for one, quick, they handle very well, they kind of take most of the terrain decently, even though if you are going to be using this thing in mud, you're probably going to be a bit cooked. But overall though, guys, I gotta admit, this is again going to be my first time I have ever played Pacific Rift. I also never played Apocalypse, and I'm also going to admit here and say I barely even played the first Motorstorm, so when I did end up finding out about these games again, I'm like, yo, no, I gotta grab these, I gotta play through them. When I was going through Pacific Rift, man, it really is just going to be a fun, chaotic racing game that I feel like a lot of people would really enjoy. You're going to mess around with different classes, go around different environments, and figure out good ways to do each event and stuff like that, because, you know, each class is going to give you a different experience on each track as well. So I would honestly say for like a really fun, chaotic racing game, I don't think you can probably have a better experience than something like Motorstorm. One of the other games I would probably also say in this category where it's going to be crazy chaotic is like Twisted Metal, but that is obviously going to be way different. Do let me know what y'all think about Pacific Rift in the comments below. I am curious what y'all think. I am going to admit something right now. I would say a lot of people are probably going to say they most likely prefer Apocalypse over this one, which we all do know is probably going to be fairly true. I did find that game to be very good, but I also really did find Pacific Rift to be really enjoyable right along the first Motorstorm, which honestly, this entire series was really amazing. And with that though, I am curious, what do you guys think is the best Motorstorm game in the entire series? I really am interested to see what the comments are going to say on this one.